or live? My mom told me you have nice features. Have you ever heard that before?
Not in its entirety. I usually just hear that I have nice eyelashes, but that's it.
Oh, yeah, maybe she did say something about your eyes. Maybe she said something about your eyes, but she said you had nice features. I couldn't tell if she really meant that or like that's the kind of thing you say to someone when you're trying to dig to give them a compliment.
Yeah, it's like a bless her heart kind of thing.
Yeah, like, "Oh my god, he has such nice features." You're 450 pounds and 5'2".
I look like an idiot.
Mr. Steve, good morning.
Good morning. What's up, guys?
What's up, dude? Hey, Steven or Steve?
Steve's fine.
Steve's fine. What does your mom call you?
My mom calls me Steven, but
How-
but that kind of that's the the exception that defines the rule type thing.
Uh-oh, I better write that down. He
Well,
sounds like
no,
he
it's
reads
not
already.
like an offensive thing. It's just that it was always Steven at the house, but then once I made friends, it was Steve. No matter how much I insisted the other way, so around high school, I just gave up.
Yeah. My name's Sevan, but I have friends who are like I've had for like 10 years and they call me Sevan. And then one day they hear my name said right, Sevan. And they're like, "Holy shit, why didn't you ever tell me?" I'm like, "Dude, when you have a name like this, like you stop correcting
You
people
just
like
stop. Yeah. Just let people do their thing.
but we're friends. I know we're friends, but I have low expectations. Steve, this is Caleb.
What's up, Caleb?
Hi, Steve.
How you guys doing?
Dude, living the dream, crazy. Rubbing shoulders with dudes who are 10-0 in Bellator. When wrestling with my dog, I feel like I have to before I do that, I check my insurance to make sure it's up to date. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts what you do. Why are you listening to Steve Mowry? There's a bunch of reasons. He's a young man. He wasn't he's a young man. He shall I wait for him to come back before I flatter him?
Yeah, maybe.
His picture's gone. Steve, can you hear us? You vanished. He stepped on his router. Yes, Kevin Smith. Bam. That is correct. Bam.
There
Bam,
he is.
bam. You got to ask connection, Steve?
I got Caleb.
How about me?
Oh, never mind.
I put gel in my hair. I hope you have me.
You prepared for this.
I look nothing like I look. Like, if you look at me on this show, I look nothing like this the rest of the day.
I got Caleb again.
Oh,
Is it his internet connection that's fucked up?
I think it's probably his. He's pretty laggy.
But he doesn't have me. Mine looks good. Oh, darn it. Uh-oh. Can we bring him back? There he is. Good morning. I second that, Bam. Good. A second Bam. That's always nice. Hey, Steve, is that your internet connection that's jacked up? Can you move to a different spot? Look at someone wrote like and subscribe CEO and the Sevan podcast t-shirts are now available for pre-order. Did you do that, Caleb?
I did not.
I just hopped off my Wi-Fi. More often than not, I feel like if you just use your data, and I have an unlimited data plan, so I was like, you know what, let's just.
This guy's got it made.
I appreciate it. Are you on your phone?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is why you're listening to the show today. Besides the fact that I put hair gel in, Steve is 10-0 in Bellator. He is a young man. He is a heavyweight, and he was fighting was not well. He his parents didn't raise him to be a fighter. Oh, well, we'll find out. Maybe they did, and they don't know they did. Maybe they started beating him at a young age. They didn't know the implications.
Maybe the harder they steered me away from it, the more I wanted to lean into it.
Do not go to the Catholic girls. Do not talk to the Catholic girls. Yes, Dad. And you popped on my radar because you went a few rounds with Nikki Rodriguez, who's a regular on our show.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you popped on my radar, and I'm a huge, obviously, UFC fan, and I would be a huge Bellator fan, except there's only so many fucking hours in the week. But I do have some favorites over there at Bellator, and Dalton Rasta. I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh, I grew up with Dalton Rasta. Yeah.
What?
Dalton Rasta and I, when I first started, Dalton and I trained at the same gym back in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I met him probably 10 years ago. This is
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of upbringings, totally different upbringing than you.
In what sense?
His mom and dad. You have two educators as parents, right? Teachers.
My dad's a teacher. My mom's a nurse. Yeah.
Okay. And he grew up more like, hey, it seems like from knowing his background, he is like, hey, I got to raise myself early. Like he had a fucking tough upbringing.
Yeah. Okay. In that sense, then yeah. Dalton did have a rough go of it. I mean, I don't know Dalton. Like we're not super close, but I've known him a long time. And what I do understand was that his childhood was a little bit different than mine.
Yeah, he's fighting to survive. He's one of those kids that like, hey, I better be good at sports so other people like me. I have a lot of friends like that. Like, you grow up in a trailer, you want to take a shower at night, and so fucking you better do good at sports so the other parents invite you over to their house so you can shower.
That's right.
I'm sure you've talked about this subject ad nauseum, but I have to go here. When do you know you're tall? So just to put it in perspective, I'm 5'5", and I didn't know I was short until I went to college. And like other guys would be like, that girl will never go out with you. I'm like, why? They're like, dude, she's 4 inches taller than you. I'm like, what? Oh, when do you find out that you're tall? How old are you?
I still don't even really fully realize it sometimes until I see myself in pictures. And then when I see myself in pictures, I'm like, God damn, there's a lot more of me than all these other people.
Wow, that's awesome. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh, that is so good to hear. And when you wait, oh yeah, wow.
So you look at that picture.
That's a full-size human you're standing next to?
That's my fiance. She is 5'4", and the way she talks to me, you would think she's the 6'8", 250-pound professional fighter.
You have
That's
a baby.
Why I said it takes me a while. It takes me seeing myself in pictures to realize, because I'm like, God damn. So the way especially when she wakes up, it's like the fucking boldness you just came at me with. It's fucking reckless.
I went to bed with a young lady. I woke up with a dragon.
That's right.
It's like a Disney movie. And you have a baby.
I do.
How old's your baby?
She'll be 7 months tomorrow.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Even still, seeing that picture, that was her baby shower, and that was like, I'm trying to think. That was like 5 weeks before she was born. So it's like, even seeing it is like, man, that feels like just the other day that we were doing all that, like getting ready and setting everything up.
But now you can't imagine a life without a kid, right?
Absolutely not. And I remember being so like frazzled whenever I found out it was happening. I was like, man, I don't even have a house yet. And like, you know how it is. You have this vision of your life whenever you're younger, and you have this vision of your life whenever you're young where you're like, well, whenever I have kids, we're going to be married, and I'm going to have a 7-bedroom mansion, and I'll have 3 giant tables that will protect the house, and I'll have 4 cars. And you know how it goes. You just construct this thing in your head. But here's me at whatever, I was 28 years old, and my fiance now tells me, I'm pregnant, and it was like, no, everything's wrong. Everything's not right. And now here I am in my life, and I really couldn't imagine anything. I really couldn't imagine my life any other way. And I would fight until my hands fell off to keep it that way.
It is pretty amazing that you're 10-0 as a heavyweight. The people outside, I mean, I don't even know how many fight fans realize that, let alone people outside the world. It's because of the sheer power that you guys have and how big you are, really, they say that about all fighting, but really in your weight class, anything can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was even watching one of your fights the other day against Darian Abbey, and the commentators had already called you a loss. And you won the fight, and it's like, holy shit. Yeah. And
Darian Abbey's a good friend of mine now, so we still sometimes have a good laugh about how the way the fight played out, the way everything had happened. And fun fact: if you dug, you'd be able to, if you really looked into it. But I actually don't remember the fight at all. I don't remember any of it. I remember, I made the walkout. We walked out, I touched glove, and then I'm in the locker room taking off my shorts. And I had my check in my hand, and the reason I knew I won was because I looked at the amount on the check. So I'm like, wait a minute. And then everything was like, it was just this intense blur of like, I realized that I had lost, 20 minutes of my life that I didn't remember. And I was like, wait a minute, guys. And then, of course, I was freaking out. I almost had a panic attack. I was like, wait, did I win? Did I win? And they're like, yeah, you won. What's wrong? And I was like, did I win? And it went on for like 20 minutes. I'm showing everybody I won, right? And then the commission was there too. So they were like, yeah, we're going to get this guy to the hospital. Like everybody was like, what do you mean? Yeah, of course you won. And I was like, and then they had to they pulled it up on a phone and I had to watch it again. And I was like, all that just happened. It was crazy. It was, even when I think back, it was like I imagine like we touch gloves and then it's like this weird, like, those dreams that like where you don't even realize how tired you are and you fall asleep. You have a weird whirlwind dream and you wake up and you're like, what the fuck? It was like that almost.
Yeah.
And even now thinking back about it, Darian and I still have a good laugh about it.
Does your mom know this story?
I hope not.
Yeah, this is not one. If you're a parent, you want to
No,
hear.
certainly not.
What happened in that fight? This isn't my intention to go here, but what happened in that fight? Did you just come out a little slow and cold? Like if you had
a little bit,
yeah. Like you're like he just went 0 to 100, and you're like, damn it, I'm like at 90.
Yeah, kind of. That was something that I think
I always wonder that about fighters. By the way, like if the other guy comes out at 100 and you weren't ready at 100. Then you're kind of fucked. You're playing catch up for the first 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, and we see that sometimes. I think that like there seems to be like a general misunderstanding of how like pace plays out in a fight, and it's that like the higher the level of the fight goes or whatever the participants of the fight are in, the slower the pace of it will be. But that's not the case. I think that some guys, try to use the pace as a weapon. Some guys, they'll take note of how other guys start, so they'll try to start fast. And I think so, like in that fight, not to take anything away from Darian, he came out ready to rock. He came out ready to win. I did come out a little bit flat, which was something that, especially up to that point in my career, was something that it was something that bothered me about myself, but I was just kind of resigned to it. And it was, oddly enough, it was Darian that made me stop and think like, okay, I need to take charge of this if I wanted to change. Like I'd always just kind of been like, yeah, whatever, I'll figure it out in the fight. I'll let, once I wake up, I get going. And not much longer later, my coach was like, yeah, look, dude, like that's not really how it works. If I need you to start fighting, I need you to start the fight. And then
like come out and it's the second round already.
Come out and fight. Come out and when the bell rings, you're ready to tear somebody.
What do
in
you
half.
do? Do you have to think, okay, there's someone with a knife to my mom's throat, or like do you have to play some sort of head game? Like how do fighters do that? Do you have to make some shit up or no?
Absolutely not. I kind of I'm not really like an angry person, and I'm not really like, I don't think I'm a dick, but I do have like a natural proclivity.
We'll need two other sources to confirm or deny that.
Okay, well my fiance's in the shower. But no, I think that I am naturally very competitive for one, and two, I think I just do have a natural proclivity to like be physical, to be like want to get my hands on things, and it's not necessarily always to hurt things, but I think I just like the whirlwind and I don't want to say the chaos, but like the heat of the moment. So to kind of like course correct, what I had to start doing was thinking about, I had to simulate it in training. I'd simulate, instead of treating every round as just another round where I'm trying to get my work in, I had to simulate and think every round was the first round of a fight. So I had to, as soon as the round started, boom, pop, like get ready to rock. And I think
role play. There is some role play. You role play
a little bit, but it's not so much like I'm not thinking, okay, well, this is the specific person that I'm going to fight whenever the round starts. It's for me. It's always for me. So, Steve, you're in the cage. They just read your name. It's locked. The ref is getting ready to point at you both. He points at me. Are you ready to go? You ready to go? And then let's go. And that's me. That's my time. So it is like a role play, but it's less like less of a. I'm not trying to make it a situational thing. I'm trying to make it a reactionary thing. So like as soon as, for whatever that amount of time is on both ends of it, it's the whole time is violence in the middle.
Do you think you're getting better at that? Can you train that, cultivate
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
I do. I really feel like especially my last 3 fights, had been like a marked, there really is like a marked difference in my last few fights. So whenever I had that talk with my coach, it really was like kind of an aha moment. It was like, he was like, well, hey, look, like that's not something you're going to just wake up one day and be better at. That's something you have to make a conscious effort to improve. And I really feel like from that point on, it was, and I'm not to say that I'm perfect at it. It's even looking back, I'm like, man, in those last few fights, there's points where it's like, man, I could have done this better or that better. Not just on the technical side, but on like the performance side of it, like on the, how I came ready to perform.
Is it an alertness?
Not even really so much that. It's more, for me, it's more like not in alertness, but it's more of a like being in touch with myself in a moment kind of thing. And I think alertness, it's not that it isn't alertness, it's more just like presence. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm trying to feel it. You could think you're really, really alert and really aware, and then someone just hold a king cobra in front of your face, and then you'll be like, oh shit, I wasn't really aware, because now I'm fucking really aware.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like realizing that you're in the ring with like a dude who's trying to kill you. That's what I was thinking. Like,
Okay.
somehow like you have to make that has to become like a reality. Like I heard someone say the other day, there's no reason to fear death, but man, fearing death is kind of like it's such a cool drug.
Yeah. It's such
a
It's such a like tangible part of the human experience.
Yeah, it's like that's why we go on roller coasters, right? That's why we
you
go
do
up to that.
everything, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Right. You're either trying to get a girl or avoid dying.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is like it's such a breathable part of like what it is to be a human being, is to know that like you're going to be born and you're going to die. So you might as well live in the middle.
You think that's part of the reason why you fight?
Part of it, no doubt. And then, like I said, so like competition's a big part of it. But then a big part of it too is just like you said, is because it's, it's like one of those things that's exciting and it's scary and it's fun. It's kind of like, I kind of dread it a little bit. It's this weird mix of like all these different, emotions. And it's like, it's just so beautiful and real. And I just feel so alive whenever I do it,
You said something really smart in one of your interviews. I heard people are gonna be like, "Oh,
probably the first and only time," right?
people are gonna think it's not a big deal, but the reason why it is a big deal is because you acted on it. If you wait till you're 35 and decide you want to fight, you will not. I don't care what anyone says about age not mattering. Age matters. It is too late. It is too late to be the best fighter that you could have ever possibly been if you wait till you're 35. I'm not saying if you decide when you're 35 you shouldn't try. But basically, in the interview, what I heard you say is like, hey, I knew that I didn't want to turn 35 and say, oh, shit, why didn't I fight?
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell me about that? Like how old you were, how long you've been fighting, and was that a tough decision?
No, well, was it a tough decision to decide to fight? No.
Yeah, just kind of the whole thing. I'll give you an example. I do this podcast, and I'm 49. And I still get uncomfortable, like when I start talking about cock and balls and making your mama jokes, knowing my mom and dad are listening. Meaning that there's an outside pressure in the world. There's to chase your dream. There's all of these things you have to like disregard for a second and be like, dude, it's me. Yeah. Like your mom and dad, I'm assuming for sure don't want you fighting. No, I'm guessing no mom and dad wants anyone. I mean, you're fucking you're their pinnacle of creation, right? You're their Sistine Chapel. And now it's going out there and letting other dudes hit it. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Just for an example, like how do you break through and be like, this isn't going to be what I'm going to do?
Well, to give you some insight into my life, it's interesting we're talking about like Dalton and I, because like just how they're not like opposites, but they are different. Right. My upbringing wasn't so much marked by like I need to find love and acceptance so much as it was I need to find meaning. You know what I mean? I didn't really have anything until fighting. And it's not to say I had friends, I had family, my parents loved me, all that happy, whatever. But I didn't really have anything that like lit me up. Like when I woke up in the morning, it was just put your clothes on, go to school, wait for the weekend, hang out with my friends. Fighting was, for me, it was the first thing I ever had in my life that I was like, I can't fucking wait to do that. And it was like, even before I had done it, which is crazy. Like I said, if I knew it kind of like, I knew that it had existed, but I didn't really know much about it until I read about it in a magazine. And just something about it spoke to me as a human being. And it just instantly needed to do it. And it was like one of those things where it was like, it chose me more than I chose it. Does that make sense? Like I couldn't keep myself away from doing it. And it was like, I mean, I'm sure there's probably more examples of this. Like especially if you asked her, but with my mom, it was a thing where it was like, as a kid, generally I did as I was told. I followed the rules. Whatever. But fighting was the first thing that it was like, both my parents at first, but then for a much longer period of time, my parents were like, yeah, this probably isn't for you. Maybe you should find something else with your life. And with most things,
How old were you when you had that conversation?
Like 17, 18.
So you had already expressed, you're living at home, and you'd already expressed that you want to do some fighting, and your parents like, nah, you're not.
And it was terrible. It was tough. It was really tough, especially because this is around the time that kids are getting ready to pick what they're going to do with their life. They're getting ready to go to college. They're getting ready to go to a trade school, or whatever, start working, join the military. And for me, who, like I said, I came from an educated household. For me to tell my parents, not only do I not want to get an education, I want to stay away from getting an education, and I want to do this fighting thing. It was as if I'd given them both a big middle finger, especially the way they reacted, and told them like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. And as is the case, I just ended up being, successful at it. It was something that I knew right away that if I worked really hard, I probably could be successful. And it's not that I didn't have my snags along the way. So especially what made it tough was at the beginning, my mom for such a long time wasn't supportive. And it was hard because it was, like,
how long, Steve?
What do you mean?
How long was she not supportive?
Not until like 2 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So 6 years of 6, 7 years. Okay.
I mean, maybe like 8 years, like really until.
And now she's just faking it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Not even her faking it. She would tell me like, whenever you're ready to go back to school or blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, it broke my heart. Like your mom, the woman, the matriarch, the person who kind of sets the standard for what women should be in your life. And here she's telling me like, well, that thing you really like to do more than anything else, don't do it. I want you to do something else.
Yeah.
And what broke my heart about it was like, well, look, Mom, like, how hard life is. Like, how hard it is to get out of bed every day, do something you fucking hate. Like, I finally have something that I'm in love with. Like, not to turn this into a Freudian therapy session.
No, this is so good for people to hear, man. This is true coming of age shit.
No, for sure. And that was like, for me, was always the hardest thing about it. Was I was like, not so much. I mean, the fighting in and of itself, competing, getting better, training, all that is hard enough. But for me to not have like the one person that was like one of the only people that I really needed the support of, to not have her like fully, hey, babe, you can do it, whatever. And it's not that she wasn't like actively trying to stop me from it. It's just that it was, in my head and in my heart, I was like, why are you not really here for me? So it's like she was happy when I won, and she would be happy to hear if whatever things were going well. But there always was this steady like undercurrent of I was waiting for it at any time for like the ball to drop, or the floor to come out from underneath me and say, well, you should have gone back to college. And that in a weird way motivated me, but it also was very difficult.
Caleb, did your parents freak out when you joined the Air Force?
No, it runs in our family, so they were just kind of like,
oh, you just had bad parents who didn't love you. All right.
Yep. They're like, get out of my house immediately.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Some parents are like so proud of I wonder if the parents are really proud of their kids who joined the military, or you're faking it. I mean, part of me would be obviously so proud, but the other part's scared to death, right? You just don't want your kids being hurt.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both for my parents. Like
Are you close to being deployed now?
Probably.
Yeah. Over to Europe.
Who knows?
Break bread with the Russians.
There we
I hope
go.
everything's okay. What's your ethnicity, Steve?
English and Irish, just a good old fashioned goofy white boy.
Growing up, I'd always hear this thing about short man's complex, you know, and then as I got older, especially like into my 40s, I realized there's I don't know if it's a true term, but I call it tall man's complex. Maybe it's just part of short man's complex. But the tall guys I've known
The projection of the short man. That's the true complex.
Yes, probably. The tall guys I knew, especially in the workplace, and maybe just because we're in such a soft era for humanity, period. But the tall guys I know were really sensitive and they weren't picked on enough as a kid. No one picked on them, and so they don't have thick skin now. Did you experience any of that?
I would definitely say I'm emotional and sensitive. You just ask about pretty much anybody. But I don't know. Part of that too is just how competitive I am. I always feel like I have to get the last word in. So somebody will say something and it'll be like, "Oh, you think you can fuck with me?" And then before I know it, we're trading insults back and forth. And
did you used to sit around in the 7th and 8th grade and do these things called like cap sessions? There'd be like we called it capping. I don't hear that term anymore, but like 10 dudes would get together just like under a tree or in a room somewhere, and it's just everyone just insults everyone. You just take turns just insulting the fuck out of each other. Did you ever do that?
I thought that was just like hanging out. Like,
yeah, it's right. There's people just like you because you're. Well, let me go to this. I had Great Danes, and I was a crazy stoner. I don't smoke weed anymore.
I had 4 of them. Sorry to interrupt.
You did?
I had 4 of them. Throwing up? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, holy shit! You had 4 simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. So we bought 2. I mean, I was way younger. We had 2, and then both of them had a litter of puppies, and then we kept one of each of their puppies. We also had a golden retriever before the Great Danes too. There was a time when we had 5 of these big dogs in our house.
Yeah, they will. Did they destroy your yard with urine?
Absolutely, they destroyed everything. They're just big and kind of like an interesting animal pejorative or not pejorative, an animal like my animal version of myself, just big and goofy and friendly, but they fucking break everything. I don't know how big they are.
Yeah, and they're goofy, but they're wonderful athletes. I had 3 Great Danes at the same time, and I was making a movie, and I left him at my mom's house to take care of. Which you should never. It's so dangerous to leave 3 Great Danes with a woman who's 5 foot tall, 100 pounds. But anyway, they peed my mom's yard to death. They just hosed it down with urine and killed everything with urine. I mean, you can't imagine. Do you remember taking them out in the morning and they would pee for like 2 minutes straight, and you'd be like,
absolutely. And they would like,
holy shit.
They'd take a dump and be like this big.
Yes, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they're great dogs. But so I was a stoner and I was in college and I had a Great Dane, and it became a point where like I didn't want to walk. It was a conflict. I didn't want to walk my dog, or I had to stop smoking weed because I just hated all of the attention. You cannot fucking go anywhere with them. I can't just go to the store and buy a 6-pack and walk with my dog. 20 people are going to want to talk to you. And it's always dudes. It's always dudes. There's no like hot chicks like, oh, beautiful dog. It's always like dudes like, damn. Is it like that being 6'8"? Like everywhere you go, is everyone just like,
yes,
looking
absolutely.
at you?
I get asked if I go out to go show. If I'm out for, I would say, at least once per hour on average, I get asked how tall I am if I'm going somewhere.
Wow. Caleb, what is what percentile is he in at 6'8"? I one time looked at 5'5". I think there's like only 12% of the population of men is shorter than me. And if you go to 5'4", it's really fucked up. But like, I don't see people shorter than me, and I don't even think I'm short, but like when I see a dude who's shorter than me and I look down, I'm like, whoa, that's weird. Do you ever see dudes taller than you?
Occasionally. Yeah. And I had a good friend that was taller than me, and that kind of like upset the natural order of my life. Cause I was like the only dude I ever really felt like I looked up at him, and he was, so like 7 foot. So he's like significantly taller than me. And just to look up at him was like, challenged everything that I'd ever come to know and learn about myself.
I don't know the validity of this, but it says less than 1% of people are taller than 6'5".
Yeah, it makes total sense. Wow, all of a sudden I feel normal compared to Steve. Because you just don't see people. Like I don't see someone. If I look carefully, I could probably find someone who's my size or shorter every day if I looked really hard. Do not see anyone who's 6'8" in my town ever. Ever, ever, ever.
What town is that? I'm sorry. I mean to ask.
I'm in Santa Cruz, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where
Where
be
are
good
you?
if it weren't for all the damn vampires, right?
Yes. Oh wow, look at you with your movie. You're too young to know that movie.
No, I fuck with movies. Movies are one of the great passions of my life.
Do you know what movie he's talking about, Caleb?
I honestly have no idea. No. What movie is it?
The Lost Boys.
Yeah, man, that's a great movie.
Damn, that's old.
You live in Florida?
Yes, I live in Fort Lauderdale, or more accurately, Plantation. So like 45-ish minutes north of Miami.
When and girls like you because you're tall.
I got a little bit more attention probably than your average bear. I would like to think it's because of my devilish good looks and charming personality, but I'm sure being tall helped.
Yeah, I mean it's the natural order of things. If you're, I believe, whatever the fuck that means, that's just like God. That's just a horrible talk. But anyway, let's just go with it. The natural order of things is a woman would want a tall man because she wants to have big babies because big would survive better. I mean, it would just. I understand you love me for superficial reasons. I'm perfectly okay with that.
I mean, I don't know, but I've lost out to plenty of dudes who I was like, man, what the fuck? What does he see in him? Like I said, that's not even me factoring in the fact that I'm tall. I'm just like, man, that dude's a fucking dork.
Do you have red hair?
No, I have fucking blonde hair.
Okay, it's just the lighting.
It's just and then I have it propped up. I got my daughter a teddy bear, and it has like a big red bow, so it's probably like bouncing off that.
Are you have a fight coming up, but you haven't announced who?
Yes, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it yet, but there is something this spring. There's something going on.
And how does that happen? So, tell me, like you're at the gym and you look down at your phone and there's a text. Tell me like how fights happen in your world.
That's pretty close to it, actually. Usually, it's like a thing where I have an agent. So, like, generally, what happens is the promoter will be in touch with the agent about how they want me for an upcoming event. The agent will tell me, I'll verbally agree yes or no to it, and then I get sent a bout agreement, which is just a contract to fight. So, this fight was pretty standard in terms of that. You like a business deal normally, you verbally agree to a business deal, you work out the kinks, and then you make it official with a piece of paper.
And do you have any say in who you fight? Like is the person that they've chosen someone that you've had put feelers out for?
Sometimes, and it's all very. Fighting is much more of a it's like this interesting game of chess, not in the sense, like not in the microcosm sense that like every fight is a physical chess match, blah, blah, blah. But it's also this very interesting game of chess where like the farther along I learned, the more people pick their opponents. People say yes or no to certain types of people at certain times. And, the general it tends to be looked upon as cowardice, but the more and more I go, the more and more I see that it's sometimes it's business, sometimes it's like a personal thing, sometimes it's like just things going on in people's lives at certain times. It's like this whole interesting thing that I'm learning about now, that like you can leverage certain dates and times and certain opponents and certain it goes on and on and on forever. And it's not even just stuff that I've experienced, but it's stuff that I've seen too. And it's some of the best fighters I know, they're like, well, yeah, I turned this down at this time because this. And then even in my own like personal experience, I've had times where it's like, well, it's like not the opponent, but like the date of that is messed up, or like, okay, well, I'll take that opponent, but I want more money. And it's like, it's a whole thing. But, just as it's been laid out, yeah, generally promoter calls your representing liaison. They call you, and then you say yes or no, then you put it on paper, make it official.
What year did you turn pro?
2016, like the end of 2016. I think it was August 2016 or September 2016.
So you're averaging 2 fights a year.
Yes.
Is that what you want to be doing?
No, I want to do probably like 3 or 4.
Oh shit.
Especially right now. That was it. You know, I mean, I've had some things just along the way that, you know, obviously is just like I said before, some personal things, professional things, business things. Sometimes you get hurt. But
Have you been hurt? Have you had any injuries where you're like,
never?
Oh, shit,
I had one serious, like the closest thing I guess I've ever had to like a serious injury. I broke my toe on my right pinky toe, and it was very like it happened at such a weird time in relation to the next fight, because it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I can't take the proper time off to let it heal and then take the fight anyway. But like I'm far enough away that like maybe if I give it a couple weeks, it'll bounce back. But then I went and I got the X-ray, and it was like the pinky toe itself. If this is the foot, and this is the toe, it was like this. It was like broken in half, and then like it slid. It was a whole thing. And it was, you wouldn't think that would bother you too much, huh?
Do you know how it happened?
Yeah, I threw a kick, and my pinky toe hit somebody's elbow like this, and my foot I think kept going, and my pinky toe stayed. It just like popped and slid.
Oh, what about maintaining that undefeated streak? Is that now that you're 10-0, is that part of, as you choose, going back to what we were talking about before, as you choose your opponents, you're like, okay, I need to make sure that I stay undefeated and like not necessarily run from fights, but take fights that are in my people who are at my skill level?
Not really, to be honest with you. No.
Just fight anyone? Just fight anyone?
That's the thing. It's like I'm at a point in my life and in my career now where it's like, well, now it's really time to like test myself. So it's like I really made it a point these last like 3-4 years to just say yes. And like I said, it's not to say that like I haven't passed on opportunities or maybe kind of like been a little bit cautious, but I definitely made it a point to be like, okay, like let's see what we can do to make this happen, as opposed to, you know, like your first couple of years, most people are generally pretty picky, and then but to build on what you said, no, like the undefeated record thing is like, I really feel like it's a myth, you know, like even the guys that have that are, you know, undefeated are guys that, you know what I mean, they might have had help along the way, or they had fights that were questionable, or they had, you know, whatever. Like you look back and you see some of their fights, and you're like, I don't know if you won that, or kind of thing. And even the guys that do make it out truly undefeated, even those guys, it's like there's always blemishes on their record. You know what I mean? So for me, I don't really know if I'm as attached to an undefeated record as I am of leaving a legacy of just being a bad man behind me. You know what I mean? Like I want to be known for being violent and effective and just being the slickest, savage, and most skilled fighter you've ever seen.
You move really well for a big guy. You move really well for a guy, period. You do not move like a guy who's 6'8", and your endurance, your metabolic capacity is great too. I watched probably 5 of your fights in the last 2 days. I never saw you gas out. I never saw you move goofy. It's kind of crazy, right? I mean, that is a problem. Sometimes I see people who are so tall that when they walk, they lift their leg. Like we walk, we lean forward and catch ourselves. Like they walk like they lift their leg up, like how like a
great game.
or like how a crane walks, or a great blue heron. You like those like giant birds that's like stepping over grass. Yeah, like you're stepping over something. Do you work on your movement a lot? You're like, God, I don't want to be that guy who's 6'8" who moves like I'm fucking 7'12", 7'11".
Yeah, I mean that's part of it, and I think that my coaches especially really hold me accountable, like they don't want me to be just another heavyweight. They were especially my wrestling and head coach.
Greg your ground game's nuts for a big dude. You don't see that either too often.
Thank you. My wrestling coach especially makes it a point to not have me move like a big fucking goon. And then my striking coach, we've kind of like evolved. That's Henry right there. We've kind of evolved over the years in terms of like the different things we would try and do. But the last, I would say, year and a half especially, he's made it a point to just not be another big guy, to be somebody that's dynamic and athletic and can do things that, generally most people don't do.
Something's happening to that division, I think. Let me go back a second here. Do you think that when you look at heavyweight fighters and you see their physiques, do you think, and for those of you who don't know, Steven's 10-0, he's in Bellator. He's a heavyweight. He has a very, very nice body. He looks like he could be a fucking lifeguard. He's thin, broad shoulders. Yeah, good lats. I mean, he does not look. But do you think that the fact that we see so many fat heavyweights, that's indicative of where the talent's at? That like flash forward 10 years and we will not see that? Like that it seems like, hey, like you look at someone like Ty, right? Ty, who fought last night.
Yeah.
And you just think he's a heavyweight because he doesn't want to lose the weight.
That's the thing. Ty's fucking sick to watch. He
incredible, by the way, incredible athlete. Not to take away from him at all.
Yeah.
But he wanted to be a fighter and he landed in the weight class he was in. Where the rest of us who are at home in my living room watching, we're like, dude, you're in the most dangerous sport in the world. Why don't you get in better shape? I mean, that's like, you know what I mean?
I think, especially, I don't know if I'm being too exemplematic or like, I don't know if I'm focusing maybe too much on Ty. But I'll digress to answer your question more broadly. Ty,
is that
really
a real word he just used, Caleb? Exemplematic? Is that because his dad's a teacher? Did he just fucking school us? Exemplematic. That's like focusing in on a specific example. Is that a word?
It might not be, but
I really like it. I'm going to use it. Okay.
Hey, Caleb, you're cutting out there. Maybe don't talk for the next minute. I don't want to focus too much on.
Yeah, Caleb.
I don't want to focus too much on just Ty, but to say specifically about Ty is, I really feel like he doesn't have a choice. Like, he is very gifted athletically, and I think even if he was, like your low body fats, like yours truly, I don't know if he would be able to make light heavyweight. He's just so dense and his bones are so big. And like, I met him in person one time and his fucking legs are like his legs are like my waist. He's fucking unreal. And like you said, it's, but to answer your question more broadly, it's a thing where like, what we're seeing a lot at heavyweight now is we're seeing a lot of guys that fought at 205 who maybe they don't want to make the weight anymore, or they can't make the weight, or they feel like the level of opposition that they face at heavyweight is going to be much lower skill-wise than it would be at their own natural weight class. So they just choose to go up and let their own athletic abilities carry them. And we see in the –
It seems scary to me. Seems scary to me.
But that's the thing is, like, it wouldn't be such a – it's not preposterous because more often than not, there's some truth to it. I see. Good friend of mine, Linton Vassell, a good friend of my training partner, was a guy, he fought at 205, and it was just getting tougher and tougher and tougher for him to make the weight. And I think he took note of how he did against the bigger guys in the room, the heavyweights, and he said, yeah, fuck it, why not? And he went up, and he's like 3-1, 4-1 at heavyweight now, and it's like just to have seen it, like myself, like it wouldn't be such a ridiculous notion if I didn't see it proved true more often than false. You know what I mean?
You're 29 years old. How much do you weigh? 230, 235?
To like 45, 250.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. When's the last time you weighed 205?
My junior year of high school, probably.
and how tall were you?
My junior year, I was like 6'5".
Okay. So impossible to make 205 now.
Yes. So I moved to Florida, I was only like 230. And my coach, I just remember being skinny, and it was like the game had an interesting, like, it was almost like it was totally out of control of that. Like, I thought being in Florida would be hot, I'd be losing weight, blah, blah, blah. But like, my coaches and I were kicking around the idea of like maybe fighting at 205. But within the first like 4 months that I moved here, I went from like 228 to like 242 in like 6 months. And it was just the natural, what I was eating, what I was doing in the day to day. I was lifting, I was being serious about my lifting too. So it was a thing where it kind of picked me. And then we got to a point though, even early, where we looked at the numbers, and I did a body composition test, and it was like, even if I were 0% body fat, I would have been something ridiculous like 210. So I was like, okay, well, does that really make sense? Like to cut myself all the way down to that weight and then try to compete. And then especially then the weight cut protocols were becoming much more strict. So it was like, okay, well, no, let's just focus on being a heavyweight right now.
I heard Ty in an interview yesterday say, or leading up to this fight, I heard him say he's not here just to fight. He's basically here to win. He's here. It sounds like maybe he even said to win a championship. I don't think he used that word. But here's the part that was weird to me, because I'd seen him in previous interviews, and he's like, "Hey, I'm just here to fight and drink," basically. And now something has happened in the last couple of fights where he's changed his mind, right? Or he's being, or maybe he hasn't changed his mind. Maybe he's just changed his story that he's willing to share with the public. We don't know what the truth is. But have you had any evolution like that? Or did you know from the beginning, like, do you like, what is your goal as a fighter? To never lose, to, you said you really want to be a fucking slick fucking machine. You want to be a fucking savage, right? You want to be just like a weapon. Like, okay, set Steven in there and let him just destroy shit, right? What is the goal?
Yeah, for me, it's like kind of, if I were to close to what he said, but more, I don't want to win fights. I want to fuck people up really bad. And, I know that, like we talked about earlier, like it doesn't come from a place of like malice or, whatever. It comes from a place of like, I want to be so fucking dominant that if you end up in a cage with me for that amount of time, you leave with a little bit less of you after the fight's over. And that's not, like I said, it's not like I fucking hate that guy, I want to kick his ass. It's just I want to be that far ahead. And you know what I mean? If it doesn't look like for me turning into a thing of like wins and losses. Okay, well, if I win this fight, it means I dominated. What I want it to be for me is like, I was so fucking dominant and so violent and so far ahead of him skill wise and conditioning wise that the result was really just like a watermark on, the piece of whatever the 15 minutes or 25 minutes that happened before that. So
you sound like you're describing that guy who's from Russia now. He fights 71 and 85 in the UFC. He's last four fight. Yeah. He picks the guy over and carries him and shows Dana, like, look, and throws him.
No problem.
yeah, no problem. Give me fight.
Yeah.
How when you see that guy, are you impressed by him? Like, because as a viewer, as a layman like me, there's an emotional and confident piece there that's like kind of mind-boggling to me. I can't tell if is it a combination of being that good and that emotionally strong or confident? What's going on with him?
That's the thing. He's such like a
or do we just not know? Some people say we don't know, but I think he's going to destroy Usman. Me personally.
Well, he has to get through Gilbert Burns first. I think Gilbert Burns is going to kick his ass. But,
okay.
But
did you train with Gilbert? Just let's
yes.
find out.
Gilbert gave me my
butt.
What does that have to do with anything? I can't just pick Gilbert.
By the way, say hi to Gilbert. He's got one of the best smiles in the sport. He probably doesn't want to hear that, but what a fucking gem of a man. Yeah.
Oh, Gilbert's fucking amazing. Gilbert, aside from being my close friend now, is and even though he's like my coach now. Gilbert and Herbert both. Herbert Burns. If you haven't gotten a chance, I think you need to talk to Gilbert and Herbert within like 2 days of each other, and you could just see how like diametrically different the two of them are in their personality. Both savages, both fucking killers, but like personality wise, where I'm more like a Gilbert. Herbert's definitely the more areas. Gilbert's definitely the more like leveled out and like matter of fact of the two of them. But no,
God, you look good there. That shirt's dope, by the way, that you're wearing in that.
Oh, they make really good coffee too. And I'm not just saying like their thing is that it's the strongest coffee in the world, but it tastes really fucking good.
I doubt it's better than Paper Street coffee.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, go on.
No, so going back to Hamzat is his thing is I saw this really funny meme that was like Khamzat is evil Khabib, and Ian Gary is good Conor McGregor. And I really thought that was funny because like what made Khabib so interesting in the beginning was just he was so like people didn't know anything about him. He came from like the hills of Dagestan and like didn't really have a prolific competition career, at least that we knew of before. And then he just burst onto the scene. Nobody could do anything to him. And Khamzat's interesting in this. It's similar, you know what I mean? He's like has a very good wrestling background, but like we didn't really hear anything about him until he's fighting on these these regional circuits and not just beating people up, but like he's so fucking far ahead of them skill wise that they can't do anything to him. And what that's translated into now is that it's like we didn't even have time to get to know this dude, and he's already beating up people that are names in the sport. So, no, that said, that's part of his like. There's this weird like mystique about him, It's not just that he's such a fucking beast, but like nobody really knows anything about him.
We haven't even seen him fight in his last 4 fights.
Yeah, he's just going in there, fucking tooling people around and going home.
Yeah, and so that's the goal for every fighter.
Well, I don't know about for every fighter. I don't know. I mean, in a perfect world, yes. Ideally, like that's what you do in every fight is you go in there and just blast people. But
yeah, because then those guys are kind of broke. Even if you don't break them physically, they're broken intellectually and emotionally.
Like probably 70% of the dudes that fight him go into the fight thinking like, well, fuck, like I just hope I make it out of here,
Like he fought the first time I saw him fight. He fought that guy who's like the number 2 in submissions in the UFC, Mezkarat or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I feel like I do.
And he just went across the ring and punched the dude in the face and just got on top of him, and that was it. It was nuts. Yeah. And I just think, but I've seen that guy fight since and win. It must be really hard when you lose a fight. So did you watch the fight last night, Derek Lewis and Ty?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I read about it. I woke up and read the thing. My daughter's with my girl's mom. So anytime we have the night off, I just go to sleep. I'll usually I'll probably like watch it this week sometime or something like that.
Have you ever retired someone? Like you fight someone and that's the last time they ever fight?
I fought a couple people that haven't fought since. I don't know if I would call that retiring them or, I mean, would in the technical literal sense, yes, I guess. But like, I don't know.
Because like last night, like Derek Lewis isn't going to retire. Like like Derek Lewis was winning the fight. He was fucking beating him up, but that dude's Ty's just a savage, right?
Yeah, Ty's a beast.
Like I don't think anyone's ever taken punches that the kind of punches that Derek Lewis last night, besides Ty. But did you ever hear the story? Sorry, off subject of Derek Lewis walked up on a guy who was burglarizing his car. Did you know that?
I did hear about that. I heard about it. I didn't hear the whole story.
Have you ever walked up on someone who's burglarizing your car?
No, never. Somebody burglarizing my car.
God, you must be so scary when you're angry.
I used to work in the bars and the clubs, like doing security back in the day. And that was always like something I had noticed was just and I'm not bragging, it's just that I'd walk into certain situations and there'd be like a noticeable difference in like the tone, whether people calmed down a lot or people felt like they had to like puff up. And it was always, for me, it was always like, look, like I'm just here to do my job. This never is a personal thing. Can we all just like move on with our lives? And it was amazing in how many people fucking like turn things into a situation where it's like personal. And it's like, bro, I'm literally here to get paid and go home, just the same as you're here to find some chick to, yeah, or whatever it is you came here to do.
Or dudes, meet dudes.
Or dudes, yeah, of course. But the point is, it was just
God. If you worked at a gay nightclub, you know how often you would get hit on. Have you ever worked at a gay nightclub?
No.
Oh man, you would.
I got hit on a couple dudes in my time, but never at a gay nightclub.
You would be. Yeah, you could. Man, you wouldn't get any work done. All the dudes would just be at the door staring at you. Yeah. Why did you fuck with Nikki? How did that happen? Are you like, oh, I need to work on my game and I'm gonna just go straight for that big old dude?
Yeah, I wanted to test myself. Nikki obviously did really well. He's another guy that like nobody knew about him, and then he burst onto the scene and met with the ADCCs. And he was a guy that for a long time I've been like itching to compete at a high level in grappling. That was like what I started off with, wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And the goal was obviously always to get into fighting or MMA. And Nikki was like, the Fury people contacted me about it, which was nice. I'd been bugging Gilbert about like, hey, can you like get me in touch with some of these guys that do the high level events? Excuse me. And it was funny, after bugging Gilbert enough, finally somebody reached out to me about it. In the way it materialized because I guess the Fury people had asked Stefan first because they were doing like a UFC versus
Stefan
Struve.
Groove.
Yeah, that was my
Struve?
friend who I was referencing earlier.
Oh,
yeah.
that's your friend.
That's the friend. Yeah. So actually,
Wow.
Stefan and I for a long time were good friends and training partners. I was kind of like his de facto jiu-jitsu coach whenever he fought Alexander Volkov. Not to say we were always, very competitive in the room together. It's just that like I was kind of the guy that he picked me to be like, okay, well, you're going to be my jiu-jitsu guy for now. And I was like, okay. It was very nice. It worked out very well. But anyway, they had tried to link up with Stefan to get him to do it, but he's in the Netherlands. So he's like, well, not only am I like not training seriously, but I can't leave the country. So he's like, but I got a guy that'll probably say yes. And then old Stevie Bear got the call.
And so, your phone rings and you pick it up and they're like, "Hey, do you want to fight in Fury 3?" And you go, "Sure." And then they tell you it's against Nicky Rodriguez.
No, they told me right up front it was Nicky. So I was like, and that kind of had like sweetened the deal in a way, because I was like, fuck yeah, it was like one flat paycheck to compete against one of the best dudes in the world, and there were no real like time or there were no real obligations surrounding the event other than just show up and compete. And I think that's what I like the most about it. I was like, fuck yeah, I can do whatever I want leading up to it. I only have to show up the day before to weigh in. I can compete and go home. It was sick. And I mean, obviously I didn't do very well, but the opportunity in itself is something I would do it every other week if I could, even with dudes, Nicky himself or Nicky's caliber. It's just so much fun. Like, hell yeah. It was just so much fun and such a great experience. And I really feel like just having done that, I feel like there was so much I took away from that it was, it was phenomenal.
Did you get to talk to him at all?
A little bit. He seemed like he was, especially before, he seemed like he was in the zone and whatever. And then after we competed, I would have liked to, sit down, hang out with him. Fun fact, I competed against Gordon Ryan years ago, like a long time ago.
You could be related to Gordon Ryan now that I look at you, if he would stop messing with his hair color.
What's he done to it recently? I haven't seen.
I don't know, but he shouldn't dye his hair. I don't like his hair.
I seen him on. I follow him on Instagram, but I haven't seen it in a while. No, I competed against Gordon years ago, and I just remember like, not to like toot my own horn, but I hadn't been that thoroughly outclassed in such a long time that like when I had competed against Nicky, it had like reignited that sense of how much more work there is to be done, and how much more room there is for improvement. And it was just awesome. So anyway, like I said, I like Gordon, and even after I competed against him, I like to correspond with him. I bought a private off him a little while later. And Nicky's another dude that I think if I'd spent some time with him, I really feel like there's a lot I could glean from him, and then hopefully stuff he could glean from me too, obviously. But no, I didn't. I really have the chance to though. So I competed against Nicky, and Craig Jones is in his corner, and then Craig Jones competed late in the evening, and I think Nicky was in his corner. So I think it was a thing where they were trying to get each other ready, and I didn't want to like, hey guys, how's it going? My name's Steve.
Are you in there ever being like, after the fight, do you tell yourself, like, hey, like if this would have been a fight, I would have beat your ass? Like, is there any of that like story going on in your head? Like, hey, this is jiu-jitsu. This is one thing, but if we fucking get in the ring, I'll smash you.
No, because like I came into his world. You know what I mean? If he would have, I'm not saying that he did this, but if he had said something to that effect, I would have been like, yeah, look, like,
come on down to the gym, Stanford.
Maybe, but not even that. Like, I definitely, if he would have challenged me, I definitely feel like where I feel like he's that much better than me at grappling, I feel like maybe I'm that much better than him at fighting. But it's not like a thing for me where it's like, well, fuck you, I'd beat you in a fight. For me, it's a thing where it's like, yeah, grappling is his thing. Like, that's what he does, full time. And I was really, like I said, it wasn't a thing where it was like I felt the need to like compare myself. Okay, well, just because you beat me here doesn't mean I wouldn't beat you in a fight. It was for me a thing where it was like, let's really see where my jiu-jitsu is at. And we found out on that day wasn't at Nicky Rodriguez's level.
Yeah, it's a trip, and you guys don't know each other. You come from two. I mean, for those of us at least who are into fighting, it is completely two different disciplines. And you got in there. What was the energy like compared to a Bellator fight?
Much more relaxed, much more like, like I said, it was. I'm not taking anything away from Nicky. Nicky was a much better grappler than me. But for me, I was just so much more. There was so much less pressure surrounding the event because, like, the result. I don't want to say didn't matter, but like anytime you lose an MMA fight, you have to make a pretty significant pivot. You have to really like, at least for me in an MMA fight, if I, were to lose, I'd have to really come back and look at what happened, in the lead up just to address that. And even if it was a thing where it's like, well, I just had a bad night, you still do have to look at, okay, well, what led up to that bad night? What could I do differently? What didn't I do? What did I do? With the jiu-jitsu thing, it really was for me a thing where it was like, fuck it. Like, let's just go out there, have fun. Like, this dude's a fucking beast. Like, let's really go out and see where I'm at. And the result is just the result,
I mean, you said something interesting here. I want to come back to something that Nicky told me, but you said that after the fight, you look at what was the build up to the fight and what could be better. What if there's someone in your life that's not helping you? Like, let me pose this at you. You're a fucking athlete. You're fucking let's say you go back to when you were 9-0, you're fighting Bellator, and the night before your wife wants to pick a fight with you about something. Like, do people in your life know that that's unexcusable? That like,
yeah.
And I mean, people in your life know that like, hey, tomorrow morning I'm going in and fucking fighting to the death. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Don't talk to me about that right now, no matter how right or wrong I am. I mean, does everyone know to give you that space?
Yeah, so hold on 1 second.
We accept dogs. We accept dogs.
No, everything's.
We have a DEI council. Will you check with the DEI council? Do we accept dogs, Caleb? Dogs, diversity, equity, inclusivity. What color is your dog? What color is your dog, Steve? Before we accept it.
Here, I'll show you.
We've reached our. Oh, nice shirt! Wow, is that a picture of me in 5 years? Ah, yes, the brown dog. Yes, brown dogs are always welcome. Thank you.
Oh, and then she's got a little bit of the black back action.
Perfect. I don't mean to be racist, but is that dog's name Juan?
No, that is Peppa.
Dude, I'm having Hans.
But we do affectionately refer to her sometimes as Pepacita. So.
Yeah, I see it. The brown. We're having Hans Kim on the show next week. Do you know who that is? The comedian.
I do not know.
Oh shit! I'm gonna send you a clip when we get off. I'm gonna text you. He's so fucking funny. Damn.
Yeah, do it.
He's Asian and he just rips on Asians, but no one's safe. But I just absolutely love it. Okay. So how do the people know?
You asked me something and we totally went off the thing there.
How do the people in your life know? Like, so your wife has needs and your mom has needs, and I don't know if your siblings have needs, and they're emotional and they're strong needs, and they're like their recognition and you're a team. But listen, motherfuckers, tomorrow I'm going to fight and you can't say shit to me the week before. I don't care if you read my cell phone and seen I've been cheating on you for the last 3 years. You cannot talk to me about this the week building up to the fight. Like, do people in your life know that?
That's the thing. For a long time, so fun fact, I dated this girl when I first moved here who was from where I was from, but lived in Florida. And the kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back in that relationship was she was picky about what I specifically said in a text, and in that, like, the word, like the order of the words in the text wasn't the way she liked it. Yeah. And so keep in mind, I was driving home and I called my best friend from back home and we talked till like, I get off at 2 and we got off the phone. We don't get a phone until like 3 a.m. So I go home, take a shower, whatever. I crawl in bed. It's 3:30 in the morning. She calls me and texts me 4 times in the span of like a minute about how like something like the way the wording is and like blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I just felt like I was being attacked. And it occurred to me in that moment that, and maybe it was just the build up of the way the whole relationship had been, but that was like my aha moment where I was like, this is fucking unacceptable. It's 3:30 in the morning and you're blowing me up about the structure of a sentence in a text message. And I was just like, this isn't going to work. Like, what am I going to imagine? I had a fight coming up and you didn't like, is this, you really be going on about this? Or would I have to wait till after the fight to have your fucking connect? So I was just like, The next day we broke up. Anyway.
Yeah, that's not professional. That's not a mate of a super high level person, man, woman, anything.
And it was, if anybody's gonna be a fucking high strung egomaniac in a relationship, it's gonna be me. So.
Yeah. Top. I mean, it's whose ever turn it is to be that way. But you being with, it's a topic on the show I like to bring up a lot, so people know if you want to be a mate for a great person, you too have to be great. You two have to be great beyond your expectations, beyond like you cannot put you have to be great if you want to be a great person.
Yeah.
I cannot have my wife fight with me before I come on to a podcast. I cannot. No matter what, she has to like give me a kiss and be like, I believe in you, good luck. And people be like, well, that's really weak or pussy of you, Sevan. Well, it's just the way I am. Like, I do not want any distractions when I come to do my fucking work that I fucking like am giving my life to.
Yeah, for sure. And to be fair, my fiance is fucking wonderful. And I think it is, I mean, pretty much describes what you just said. Is she's the type where like no matter what's going on or like whatever the situation is, not just between us or between, you know, what's going on at the house or something like that, if whatever it is, more often than not, she's the type to, even if she doesn't come out and say it, she's the type to be like, well, hey, look, let's just put this on the shelf. We can talk about it later, or you go deal with whatever you got to deal with. And then if I come to pick it up back later, I can expect her to, and I can expect her not because I force her to, but I can expect her because this is just the caliber of person she is, to be the kind of person to look at whatever the situation was logically or rationally and be like, okay, well, can like we talk about what it was we were actually fighting about, and you know maybe.
Oh, that's always huge.
No, and it's part of it's her personality. I'm more, like I said, the two of us. I'm the more. It was only half joke. I'm the more probably like high strung and emotional of the two of us. She's more of the like, okay, bit like I always joke with my friends that like I knew she was the one because she felt like the type that if I walked in the front door of the dead body, she'd be like, okay, well, I guess I'll get the shovels out of the garage. You know,
we'll talk about how this happened and how it shouldn't happen again.
Or even she'd be like, just whenever you're done digging the hole, can you please leave your boots outside? Like that type, you know. But
and she has to. So when you're with a fighter, does she have to push that stuff? Let's say her like concerns about you. Obviously, she loves you, and no one wants to see anyone they love get hit. Does she push all of that down?
I'm sorry. What do you mean?
Like, let's say she didn't want you to fight. Would she just push that down?
No, and that's the thing is she would let me know. And I think that's what I like about her is she's very good at like it's difficult. Just because of her personality, I can tell it's difficult for her, but she's good at like addressing the shit that I mean, the things that you're like, I really don't want to talk about this. I just don't feel like airing this out right now. She's the type that like generally she's the type, like I said, that's probably why her personalities work so well. Like, she's really good at like she's interfaced with like the things that are uncomfortable to talk about. She's probably coming up to stab me from behind.
That looked like a friend. That didn't look like he was going to stab you. He was too young to stab someone.
That's Wesley. He's good. Yeah, he'll stab me. At least he'll stab me in my front.
Right.
But she's understands exactly how she feels about things. It's just that her personality is more the type that's like, okay, how can we deal with this as much as we can before we make it somebody else's issue? And it's happened a lot where like I feel like she will have already addressed something in her head and in her heart before she's like come to me about it. And it makes it easier for me because I'm like, well, 80% of the time I'm like, oh, okay, we already know how you feel about it. You just needed to talk to me about it. And that was what was harder for her, was talking about it, not dealing with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So especially kind of like to go back to what you said, like this hasn't happened yet between the two of us, but like the night before a fight or whatever, even in the lead up to a fight, like probably 2-3 weeks before a fight, when things are the most stressful, things are the most dialed in, she can be like that dirty that I know, okay, well, I won't have to like tiptoe around the house or be careful about what I say or do. Like if she really has something she needs to address, she'll bring it up, and she'll know it's worth bringing up because she's already thought about it. And if it's something that she can just deal with without realizing, then I know that that's already taken care of,
Yeah. Man, you're lucky. I mean, or you made a good decision, because that's so huge. That
I
is
think
so
it's probably
huge, especially at
80-20
your age. You're
lucky.
still so young.
Yeah. No, it's I was very blessed to be in the relationship situation I'm in.
When I was talking to Nikki about just matches in general in jiu-jitsu, I was always like, I ask him, I said, hey, so when you armbar someone, do you just pull to a certain point and then look at them to see if they'll tap or leg lock? And he says, no, I go in there just to fucking rip their arm off. Like, it's their job to tap and stop it. I'm like, holy shit. He goes, yeah, everything is just break. I just want to break his arm off and basically just throw it across the room.
Mm.
You're a professional fighter. Why risk doing something out of your discipline with people who are, I mean, I'm assuming it's like that for you too. I guess I don't understand that mentality. Obviously it's important to have, but I'm assuming you have the same mentality. If you would have got him in an arm bar, your thing would be just to try to rip it off, and it's
Try to
his
take
job
it
to
home
tap.
with me, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I had a dream the night before that I submitted him, and then obviously I went to the fight and got submitted. But yeah, you know,
How did you submit him in your dream?
an arm bar in Americana.
Wow.
And it was like and I woke up and I was like, today's gonna be a good day, and then I got fucked up, and I was like,
but it is, you're so sure. I mean, you're so sure of your skills that it's not an issue to do something like that and risk getting injured, because I'm assuming Bellator is more important than anything that could have happened.
yeah.
I
mean, there was definitely
in WNO or whatever that was.
I'm reading this book, and this is, I don't really want to go too off the rails here, but like I'm reading this book, Basic Economics, and by Thomas Sowell, and he's like one of the Chicago School of Economists, where he's very like,
dude, amazing, greatest guy ever, should be a fucking national treasure. No,
Thomas Sowell's a man. But he talks about in the book, I'm on the chapter, I just finished it the other day, where he's talking about risk, and it's not like the chapter isn't about risk, but it's about investments, and he's talking about like what risk is inherent and what risk is, and how there's no such, well, my point is there's no such thing as inherent risk or proposed risk. There's just risk, especially when it comes to like, oh hell yeah, there's no such thing as proposed or inherent or actual. It's just risk. And he talks about how like even in investments, what makes risk in gambling versus a risk in an investment different is that in an investment there's risk just because there's risk, right? Like it's there. Okay, you could, if you think about like a movie. Okay, well sometimes the production budget of a movie is $10 million. Your movie could make $50 million, or your movie could make $5 million. That's just risk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to bring it full circle, with that match, or what makes it different from gambling is that in gambling you create risk where there isn't any. You artificially produce risk to incentivize an outcome, or in the hopes
Yes.
that whatever a different outcome incentivizes the risk that you're creating. But anyway, with Nikki, it was a thing where it was like, okay, well, I did bounce that off that did come into whatever my dashboard or whatever, my windshield. Okay, well, like what if something happens? But for me, it was a thing where it was like, I think that the opportunity to go out there and compete and learn and like do something pretty cool outweighs, even if God forbid something terrible were to happen, I think it outweighs the risk of that. And it, I mean, it did. I can, even looking back, like I said, I would do it every other weekend if I could. So
I want to say something about Thomas Sowell for a second, for those of you who are listening, who haven't read Thomas Sowell or you haven't come across his work. The subject matter that Thomas Sowell speaks on is irrelevant to him of how great of a man he is. And I want to encourage anyone who hasn't read anything by him or listened to any audio by him to pick any fucking book you want that he's ever written and pick it up. And here's why. The man thinks so clearly on subjects. Imagine a metronome that just beats. And when you listen to him talk or listen or read his content, because he's so logical and his thinking is so to who we truly are. 1 + 1 is 2, + 1 is 3, + 1 is 4, + 1 is 5, that you will start to see the world more clearly in every aspect of your life if you just read this guy's work. Everything from fucking God to how you tie your shoes will start to make more sense. How you treat other people, how you treat yourself, the importance of love. That one, I read that one recently, Civil Rights, Rhetoric, or Reality.
What is that about?
Crap. I mean, it's more just logic. So I'll give you an example of one of the examples he has. Like, it will say there's this comparison between men and women and their salaries, right? And people always say men make more money than women. So he says, well, I wonder if that's true. Let's look at the factors. If you take a woman who's been in a job for 30 years, who's not married, and you take a salary of a man who's been in a job for 30 years, who's not married, who makes more money? On average, it's women. So it's not, they're saying it's the men get paid more than women because they have cock and balls and that women have vagina and that there's a prejudice against women. No, there's other factors. The other factor might be that women get pregnant. It's the same thing with when they say that there's a prejudice in the prison system because most of the people are black. Well, no, that's a correlate. A stronger correlate is that 85% of the people in the prison system don't have a mom and dad at home. So it's not skin color. The stronger correlate is not having a mom and dad at home. And so he's
violently objective.
And just thinks clearly. So
not violent, but like ruthlessly objective. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. So the average salary of a Jew in the United States is $100,000 more than a Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
A Puerto Rican. Okay.
Yeah.
But the median age of a Jew is 50 and the median age of a Puerto Rican is 25. Well, I'm 49 and I'm rich, but when I was 25, I was homeless. I get it. Of course, Puerto Ricans make less if their average age is 25 in the United States and the Jew is 50. Sorry, Steven. But I love the fucking guy. I fucking love him. It's just common sense. You can't be manipulated. He won't let you manipulate him with fucking lies. And I just fucking love him.
He talked about, I just finished the part where he talked about how banks, they're saying that banks are racist they're racist in general, but they're racist against black people. And he said that, well, no, like statistically, black people and white people are marginalized more in the banking system than anybody else. Asians are the ones that they put everybody else. And it's purely statistical in the sense that Asians, it isn't so much because they're Asian, it's because, okay, well, if you talk about ethnic groups, they're the ones that they pay their loans back the fastest and, whatever. It was all of it. And he talked about like the men and women's pay raise, and he was like, okay, well, men are this much more likely to die on the job. Men are all this stuff. It was like, it's not even, you can tell it's not even him trying to like defend himself being a male. He's just saying, well, this is the statistics. Like, can we take a hard look at that first? The minimum wage one I thought was really interesting because minimum wage was like the one that people I think want to go to bat against the hardest. Like, no, there needs to be like a living wage paid. And Thomas Sowell did a really good job of illustrating like, no, that doesn't really exist. What you're doing is artificially creating a system where you can't compete against other people in the workforce by artificially raising the floor to work. And it was just so like, he did it in such a way that was so easy to understand. Even like a fucking caveman like me could, okay, yeah,
Our society's being run by people who think that because when you eat cotton candy, it tastes good and you feel good, that it's a proper thing to do.
Cotton candy is the best thing to eat.
They think that it's so because it's what feels good. It's nuts. But anyway, yeah, great, a fucking national treasure. It's a shame. I think he's like 95 now. It's a shame.
90, yeah, 90. But my friend told me the other day, he's the same birthday as him. Told me he's 90.
Crazy. How old's your friend?
My age. But
you have the same birthday too, Caleb?
Yeah.
As Thomas Sowell?
Yeah. I just figured that out.
Wow.
Yeah, he's 91.
What is it, March?
June 30th.
June 30th. Oh, I'm way off.
When's your birthday, Steve?
July 14th.
Oh.
And then my daughter's the 15th.
Oh, that's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've got the same birthday as my dad, so that's pretty
Do you
cool.
really?
Yeah.
Wow. What was that
Nice.
like? What was that like growing up?
It's bizarre. Like it's just like a double party, basically.
Really?
Yeah, you compromise on where to go to eat, but you just or what you want to eat for dinner, kind of thing, and then you just
That's
celebrate
that.
together.
My thing is even thinking ahead, I'm like, if it were a son, I think like by and large we mostly agree on things, and maybe I'm thinking about it too. Maybe I'm being a sexist, but
Clearly.
because she's a girl, I really want it's like no, I have to make it like her day. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I think my dad tried to do that a lot too. He was just like, "Well, what do you want to do for your birthday?" And I was like, "Well, it's yours too." But when I was younger, he was definitely more like he wanted to make it my day when I was a kid.
That's
so
awesome. That's
I
really
can
cool.
understand that.
Yeah,
Dude, it should be your mom's day. I always think that. Like she
That's a good
pushed you
point.
out of her vag that day. And
Yeah.
it's your birthday. How about fuck off? How about buy mom a present?
my mom had 6 kids too, so
Wow.
Oh,
I think
God.
maybe once a month I should have a little celebration for my mom, right?
Are any of your siblings as big as you are?
Yeah, we're all pretty big. I think the smallest one of all of us is my oldest brother is like 6'3". I think he's the smallest, 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in there.
My nephews, my brother-in-law's 6'4", 6'5", and my nephews are into motocross, and like they didn't want to be tall.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any sports that you were like, oh, shit, I really wanted to do that?
No, that's
And
it.
I got
I didn't
too
really
tall.
have sports wasn't part of my life really until this. So
Yeah.
I didn't have an athletic background or an athletic upbringing.
So-
My dad
How-
ran D2 track. Sorry, my dad ran D2 track in Edinburgh. But like anytime he tried to put me in sports, I'd want to get out of it. So
Me too.
So you gained all of your athleticism strictly through doing martial arts and jiu-jitsu and wrestling.
just started wrestling one day. Yep.
Hey, was any part of that like, hey, I'm 17 years old, I'm a big dude, and I'm a pussy, and this is unacceptable. I'm gonna fucking get tough.
Part of
Was
it.
there any
I
of
was
that?
afraid I'd start dating a girl and she wouldn't like me because I couldn't fight. So that was like a small part of it, but that was part of it.
Listen, man, we had the author of fucking what's the Facebook? We had Ben Mesrick on. He wrote, what was the Facebook movie?
Social Network, but that's not the name of the book.
Social Network. And basically in that movie, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook to get pussy. And it's like, I just wish like that's the premise that all human beings should know.
That's like being alive, right?
Yes, we would be so much better. Like we'd be so
Accidental
much better
Billionaire.
if people just knew that. We didn't have to dance around that. Accidental Billionaire. Yeah, his most recent book. No, it's actually not even his most recent book, but I read Accidental Billionaire. Do you fuck with Bitcoin, Steve?
Do I own any of it? No. Do I think it's awesome? Yes.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. What's Soel think about it? I've never heard him talk about it. Do you know?
No, I haven't heard him. That's the thing is I think I'd be curious to know what if I do know anything about the Chicago School of Economics is that they like the least amount of government interference in finance and economics as possible. So, but that's where there's a marked difference between Milton Friedman. That was Thomas Sowell's, whatever, his mentor instructor. The real Chicago guys, they want the least amount of government interference. The Austrian school, which is kind of what the Chicago school came from, they think there should be no interference. So, but I would think that by and large, yeah. And then remember, Milton Friedman, kind of at the end of his life, he like really popped during the Clinton administration, and it's because he pointed out that while Clinton is just the guy that's in office while the economy's good, it's actually most of the things that were good because Reagan had imposed them 16 years earlier. So there was a joke that he made on this interview that he did, or what the guy interviewing him and said, like, so you're saying that the good economy isn't because we're in the second year or the second term of the Clinton administration. You're saying it's because we're in the fourth term of the Reagan administration. I thought that was really funny. And he made a lot of really good points in that the GDP was high, unemployment was low, and it was because he peeled back a lot of the government's influence on the market.
I wonder how true that is with every president. I wonder how long it takes.
It's interesting to think about, and that's what
I guess it differs a lot too. Like when they stopped that, Trump was building some pipeline and Biden ended it like on his first day of office.
Yeah.
Like, and like 10,000 people lost their jobs overnight. Like even in California, it rippled to me. Like I met a guy who lost his job from it, and so I think maybe things like that are massive, but other things probably take a little bit longer. That was huge. That was crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, there's such a weird. I read somewhere else too, and this might be
Can you
like.
imagine? Sorry, can you imagine starting your first day of work and firing 10,000 people?
Yeah, and not doing the thing that you said you were going to do for 2 years, in canceling student debt. And I'm not saying I think you should do that. I'm saying like, okay, well, like that was the one thing people were banking on, and you didn't fucking do it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They're just gonna keep deferring it until.
Man, the student debt thing is a real white elephant in the room. What a fucking crazy number that is.
And it's like, as if all that, it's like, well, dude, that was like the one thing people were looking forward to. It's that, and then it's like, are we like, dude, are we on the precipice of World War III? Like, how far we've come from what the shit that you promised to what we're getting right now.
I wish they would tell the truth too. I like when they say they're going to make City College free. I wish they would say, hey, the rich people in your neighborhood are going to pay for City College. Everyone should be really nice to everyone who drives a Bentley. Or don't say like, we're not going to waive student debt. We're going to increase the tax on Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, and they're going to pay off your student debt. I wish they would just this notion that anything is free is absolutely or that you're going to cancel something is absolutely insane. It's like, I use this story all the time, but it's like that football coach who had his record shaved off because he was involved in child what's that called when you touch
Joe Paterno or the other
yeah. The pedophilia, they took off 300 of his wins. It's like those things aren't even related. Do you think we're fucking stupid? I'm okay if you want to tear a statue down. Don't take off his record. Like, not because I give a fuck about him. Fucking throw him away, kill him. I don't care, but
I'm with you.
Don't lie to us.
The Paterno thing, he's in Pennsylvania. That was a huge deal. When Paterno, because he was, fucking like the face of, for some reason, coaches are like the face of programs and college football.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's weird that I think it's really weird that that's like the case, but if you think about it, it makes sense. Like they're like really the only permanent fixture on every team, no matter how hard you look at it. But especially that one, it's like, Joe Paterno's a fucking douchebag who probably like caused a lot of hurt in these young men's lives. But like, okay,
don't lie to us. Don't take off his football record. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. It's like
take his fucking statue down for sure. Like,
it's such idiocy. It's such idiocy. I know this is your show, Steven, but I want to show you something. I'm so proud of. Do you follow any CrossFit?
No. You're a CrossFit guy, huh?
Yeah, I used to be an executive over there. Big shot.
Oh wow.
Big shot. Yeah, big swinging dick. Like I was the man over there.
Like
5 years ago, I wouldn't have talked to you. I wouldn't even talk to you 5 years ago.
You'd have swept me under the rug.
I'd have waited till you're 12-0.
What about Nicky Rod?
Nah, not even Nicky Rod.
Not even Nicky Rod.
Not Nicky Rod. Here's the thing. What's weird about you and Nicky Rod?
I didn't really lose to begin with, then, huh?
The thing with Nicky is I mean, Nicky's just so sexy. He's like did he have an aura about him?
Not really. He was quiet. No? The vibe that I don't want to be that guy, the energy guy, but like the vibe that I got from Nicky was much more serious than what I was coming at him with. Like he was definitely the type, he was there to fucking win, and I could feel it. And it was like, and now I'm not saying this isn't the reason I won. I'm just saying that like I was just so much more like, I could feel it. I was just so much more like, yeah, whatever happens kind of thing about it. And that's, I mean, props to him. Like, even if I would have, who's to say that even if I had taken it super seriously from the minute I took it to that point that I would have won, I might not have, or probably even probably wouldn't have. But my point is though, that I was just like in such a good fucking mood, fuck yeah, I'm here with, like, I had one of my teammates was competing. We had our other teammate there coaching us. It was just so like, a lot of the fighters, the general consensus was like, bro, I'm getting paid a flat rate no matter what. I don't give a fuck. I was like that too. I was like, good. I'm glad it's not just me. It's
They
not that
probably
I didn't
just
give a
say
fuck
that
if I
to
won.
take the pressure off themselves, though, too, right?
I thought that too, but that's the thing is like some of the guys that were saying that still did really well, like submitted the jiu-jitsu guys. So it was like, for me, you know, and like I said, I really am not saying this to take anything away from Nick. I'm just saying that for me, I really felt like I was like just so much more like I felt like I'd already gotten everything that I was going to get from it, regardless of the result. But for him, I felt like he was so much more like he was being so much more like analytical and methodical about the situation. And like I said, I really would have liked to talk to him just to get a sense of it. Was like, is this just who you are as a person, or like was that how like seriously you were taking this, or you mean whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I don't. I'd still really.
Yeah.
I told him if he's ever down to Fort Lauderdale to hit me up, and I'm not saying like hit me up, we can train together. Hit me up, like I'll fucking pay you to come teach me shit.
Right.
Maybe I'll have to.
And we'll get
I don't
a
know if I follow
hamburger.
him on Instagram or not. I'll have to follow him and tell him that.
He when I've had him on the show 3 times. This last time he was the most easygoing. I like to have him on regularly just because I love him. But I just picture him, and I have no evidence of this, but I picture him doing 3 things: training, fucking, and eating. That's like I just think that he just looks like a machine. Like I just dig him. I'm fascinated by him. I'm fascinated by how he manages the pressure of what he's been through. He's super cool when he comes on the show. I always interview him and he's in a bathroom with his shirt off, like, you know, and I just love that.
That was what he was doing anyway.
Yeah. It's just like so he's so rad. So and then there's this girl I was gonna show you. So there's this girl in the CrossFit space who I think is like CrossFit's Nikki Rodriguez. And it's this girl on the right, Danielle Brandon.
I gotta pee really quick. Can I pee and then come back?
Go pee. Yeah, pee. Okay. I can't believe it. So we have Sarah on at we have Sarah on at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's in 29 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we got Danielle Brandon on at 10. I cannot believe it. But I just see Danielle Brandon as the this thing already has 12 likes. Shit, I'm gonna give it a 13th like. Hey, what's the rule? People say like you're not supposed to like your own shit on Instagram. Anytime I make a comment, I immediately like it. Like, fuck you. It's my comment. Of course I like it.
Yeah, I think it's more of just like I don't know. I don't want to call it a stigma, but like people just think you're a dork if you like your own shit. It's like,
well, I'm a dork.
Like
fine. I'm a dork.
Who cares?
Yeah. Of course I like my own shit. I wouldn't have written it if I didn't like it.
Exactly.
So we have Sarah on, and then Danielle. Steve, this girl on the right, Danielle, these are both wonderful women right here, but Sarah Sigmund's daughter, they're both 2 of the best fucking athletes in the world. But the one on the right is Danielle Brandon, and I kind of think I had her and Nikki Rod on the show at the same time, just because I wanted to see what it looks like to have like the 2 sexiest people I know on the screen at the same time. Like I was like a scientist, like let's mix water and baking soda and see what happens.
Yeah.
And she's so awesome. Her name's Danielle Brandon, and these 2 girls
what color
are coming
shirt
on.
is she wearing?
It looks like no shirt and a tattoo. I don't know.
I think it's the green one, the green shirt on the right.
Yeah, okay.
What do you do? What's the best thing that you can do? How is your engine so good? You're a big guy. You're supposed to peter out. I've never seen you peter out. How is your engine so good?
We're very good coaches. My strength and conditioning coach, I think, is the best strength conditioning coach in the game.
Who is that? What's his name?
His name's Dr. Corey Peacock. So I should have said that. Dr. Corey Peacock. Shout out to the Corey Peacock strength conditioning system. He's a dude that I think his strength as a strength conditioning coach is that he's very in tune with the athletes. I feel like over the years, I've been training with him for 6 years, and I don't see myself ever training with anybody else. He's a dude that, yes, that's him. He's a dude he's very plugged into the athletes. He goes above and beyond, not just being the best coach he can be, but he makes it a point to like really get to know what it is we're doing on the day in, day out. And then with him, being the icing on the cake of everybody's, day in, day out training, the coaches do a really good job of implementing a competitive environment. And that competitive environment, I really feel like makes us give our maximum output. So the higher the output in training, the higher the output's going to be in the fight.
Is there a movement you do that you think is like the go-to movement? Jumping rope, burpees. Is there any specific like movement you do that's like that's outside of actually wrestling and MMA?
Well, fucking hate sled pushes since you asked. So
sled pushes and sled pulls, or just sled pushes?
Pushes. This is sled sprints. There we are.
God, you look huge compared to him. Holy shit!
And he's a big dude. He's like probably 6'1", 6'2", probably like 220. A big guy.
Wow. I'm gonna have him on the show just based on your recommendation.
You need to. I think you'd really like him. He's really cool.
Yeah.
He's the kind of dude that I would say probably 90% of our conversations are like pee and poop jokes, or we'll quote like, we really like Steve Brule, so we'll quote Steve Brule back to each other, or stuff like that. And then the other like 10%, like he can flip the switch, and all of a sudden he's Dr. Peacock again. You know what I mean?
It's quite the name, Dr. Peacock.
Dr. Peacock, with the cock doctor.
Yeah. What kind of doctor is he? Is he like a chiropractor?
No, he's a
is he an MD?
Not an MD. He's a I want to say kinesiology, but that's not it. It's the other
PhD.
He's a PhD in not kinesiology. It's the other one. I just can't fucking exercise science. A PhD in exercise science. He's a professor at Nova Southeastern University.
I bet you he has some strong opinions about CrossFit. They always do.
He very well might.
They always do. Steven, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you for the last 96 minutes, and the fact that you took a pee break, and that's usually me who has to take a pee break at 49 years old. You really made me look good, so I just want to tell you that.
It was all the coffee I drank this morning, so.
You are in my Google alerts. I will be following you very, very closely. Anytime your name pops up, there's a story about you. I'd love to talk to you again sometime and stay close to your career.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I had a great time. Caleb,
cool.
It was wonderful. Thank you,
Caleb.
Yes,
I want to talk about how much you talked in this show, Caleb. Far too much. We'll have a little meeting afterwards.
Your voice is going to be ringing in my ears for the rest of the day.
All right, man. Thank you, brother. Tell your fiance thank you.
Back.
Yes, 100%. Unless something happens to you. Well, even if you get addicted to meth or something, we'd have you back. Could be like a transformational story.
I didn't go, God.
Yeah.